Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome to the show where we interview the nation's leading real estate entrepreneurs. I got a cool person here in the studio with me today who's an absolute phenom, has a really interesting background, several different careers, but mainly went from being a lawyer, practicing law, to owning over 40 rental properties in less than 3 years. All while working a full-time job using the Bird method. And we're going to be getting into a really cool conversation about how somebody that's also busy, maybe you're a working professional, whatever that might look like, can do the same kind of thing and actually buy back your time so you can have freedom, which is what we do this whole thing for anyway. So I got Cindy West in the house. Just remember, before we get started, here at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their businesses so they can build the businesses they've always wanted in order to live the lives they've always dreamed of. With that being said, Cindy, welcome to the show today. Privileged to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It feels like it's an honor for me to be on your show and hopefully share with your audience how they can use rentals to actually get out of their 9 to 5 and actually have true freedom like it's happened for me. So thank you.
Love it. Let me ask you this. When did you decide real estate was going to be your golden ticket, for lack of a better term? I mean, you had a military background, you go to advanced schooling, you get your law degree, you become a lawyer, and then boom, hey, I'm going to do real estate too. How does that happen?
So in 2020, while I was in law school, I got the real estate bug, but it was for wholesaling real estate. If you know anything about wholesaling real estate, it's very difficult. It's not like the YouTube videos tell you it's going to be. You're going to get your first deal. You're going to make $15,000.
That'll be so easy. These people are making $50,000 a deal.
Exactly. I got the bug from there. I tried to wholesale for like maybe 6-8 months. It did not work out at all. So I was like, all right, I'm going to really focus in on law school. I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to obviously become an attorney. But I was like, real estate is where it's at. I was listening to Bigger Pockets, of course, right? Just immersing myself in it. But I didn't know what route I was going to take. And it wasn't until I actually became an attorney and started working that I kind of figured out, okay, this is going to be the specific route within real estate that I'm going to take.
And so you had this epiphany. How soon into becoming a lawyer were you like still in school too, when you started actually buying your properties?
I was 2 weeks in. So 2 weeks into working as an attorney, I was like, this is going to suck. I got to get out of here in 2 years. And then I bought my first deal maybe like 4 months after I made that decision.
Wow. That's wild. That's super interesting. And so in your military career, when did you get out of the military?
I got out in 2019.
2019. So straight out of that, straight into law school, straight into real estate. Like, you make decisions fast.
Yeah. But once I'm just like committed to something, I'm like, just do it. Like, don't think twice about it. Just do it.
Full send, right? That's super cool. So what's the long-term goal now? What would be like that moment you're able to really look back, kind of take a sigh and go, I don't really need to do anything ever again?
Hmm. I think 80,000 in rental cash flow, 100% equity, obviously, of all of my properties like it is now. That's the absolute goal.
Mhm.
That way I have true time freedom and
Right.
financial freedom. I'm not tied to another job in real estate that I've created for myself.
For sure. How long do you think it'll take you to do that?
Um, I think 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
That's good. You move fast. Success loves speed. So I've been told by some of my respected mentors in the past. Now you're in the Charlotte area.
I am.
Did you grow up in Charlotte? Did you just land there somehow?
So I actually moved here because of my portfolio. So initially I was
Okay.
living in Northern Virginia. I was working as a lawyer in DC, like I said. And I was like, I want to start getting into real estate. I want it to be somewhere relatively close to where I'm living at that I can travel to. So I started coming to Charlotte, decided it was a good market to buy into, bought maybe about 10 rentals. And then I decided, you know what, it makes sense to move down there, especially because I self-manage. I knew I wanted to grow my portfolio. So I moved down here in the summer of 2023 and been here since. When I moved here, I didn't know anybody, but I knew it was going to be a really great place to be long term.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
What was your first deal or client like?
My first deal, it was a triplex, probably about 45 minutes right outside of Charlotte. It was on the market. I got a real estate agent involved because I wasn't local. It was my first deal, right? So you just know, go on Zillow, look for a property, put it under contract, and bought that one. Everything was under market at that point that the tenants were living there. Purchased it, and then from there it just snowballed.
Mm. Wow. Now, what was the biggest risk you took early on?
Mm. Uh, I think buying a lot, like with the
Mm.
volume came a lot of obviously financial responsibility that I didn't account for. I got that it was great. You're buying with hard money. You don't need much money, right? That's what you hear. It's low or no money down. And I quickly realized that having multiple products or multiple rentals that aren't fully rented out or you're doing rehabs on, um, I was very leveraged at that point. And there was a point where I just had to step back and say, this isn't extremely wise right now. Maybe just let these stabilize. And there was a point where, for about maybe 8 months, I didn't buy anything, right? I had bought
Mm.
so much in 6 months that I was like, the ship is about to sink if you don't stop buying.
Mm.
So I think I kind of learned there of it's okay to sometimes step back, let it stabilize, and then go back to buying when you're in a better
Yeah.
position.
Well, what was that like when you kind of having that realization? What were you going through there, and what made you make the decision to just like slow down to speed back up?
I didn't enjoy it because I'm a deal junkie. Like I love looking at
Yeah.
deals, and then you're like, this will cash flow. I only have $2,000 in my bank account, but I'm sure I can make this work. I can buy this property. It'll get me to my goals sooner, right? So I wasn't too happy with knowing that I can't right now, but I knew that I'd be in a much better position to, do rehabs, to manage. And sure enough, I took like 8, 9 months off and a 10 unit came across where I had to put a huge down payment down. And I was in a better position to actually say I can do that deal because I haven't bought anything in the last eight months.
Mm. How did you decide which opportunities were worth pursuing?
So because I knew I wanted to leave my job within 2 years, after the first year where I bought all those houses, and like I said, it was a huge financial responsibility, I realized what the cash flow was, right? I was only maybe cash flowing like 3,000 across all of those. And I was like, all right, I need to figure out how to increase my cash flow so I can actually leave my job without having 10 houses renovating at the same time and having,
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
this big responsibility. So that was the point where I was like, you know what? I need to go after multifamily, just do one big deal. That'll help me out a little bit in terms of the financial outlay because it's just one unit, but it'll still push me towards my ultimate goal. So at that point, I was like, all right, put a pause on buying all these single family houses. Just wait for a multifamily to come across or just start looking for those. And sure enough, that's kind of what happened. And I've just figured out that for me, it's better to do one big deal a year than to do multiple single family homes like I was doing at the beginning.
Yeah. I would, my follow-up question to that was what's evolved with your approach over the years, but it sounds like you kind of answered that question already. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's definitely
So,
been just going for the bigger deals at this point.
mm, now what's like perfect deal size for you right now?
I say between 6 and 15 units.
Mm-hmm.
Distressed asset that I can obviously buy with hard money because I'm buying it at a discount. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
also able to increase the income and the value of it so I can refinance. And of course, it has to be in North Carolina. Everything is within an hour. So I try to keep everything within close proximity to me.
Sure. How do you find most of your deals or clients?
All of my deals have been through wholesalers, actually. So as I was mentioning to you, I do a lot of networking here in the local groups, the RIAs. So everything I've ever bought outside of the first 4 or 5 deals that were on the MLS, everything else has just been purely through wholesalers and relationships in the community.
Mm. What's a deal that makes it an instant no for you? Like what makes a deal an instant no?
Hmm. I would just say a very old property that has lots of issues. Because I'm also thinking, right, if I want real estate or the portfolio to be my exit, it has to be able to withhold itself at least for the next 15 to 25 years. That's my goal. I don't want to, I'm not buying to sell in 3 years. I'm not buying to sell in 5 years. I really want to hold these properties. And so I really try to stick to properties that aren't brand new, but maybe at least 1950s and older, or younger, I should say, that I know I could actually own this asset for the next 20 years and then sell, and somebody would still buy that asset, right? I always think there's a lot
Right.
of older homes here in North Carolina. Sure, I could buy a 1900 home, but in 30 years, in 2050, who's going to buy a 1900 property, right? It's a little bit tougher pill
Right.
to swallow. So that's just old. That's usually what's in my mind when I'm seeing those really older ones that usually come at a cheaper price. But
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that ultimately comes down to when you think about it from a logical standpoint too. I mean, it's just like on our tax returns, right? Like there is such thing as depreciation and houses do depreciate, even though maybe the property value goes up over time, the house itself, the structure depreciates. So it's one of those things where you get it too old and then eventually it becomes, hey, we probably should just bulldoze this and build something new on the land, right?
to your point, even if the value is there, right, you might think this
Yeah.
asset is absolutely going to appreciate over the next 20, 30 years.
Uh-huh.
But if it's in fact actually depreciating because it's an older asset, right? And things have just changed in the market and just the structures around it, will someone really want to buy that asset, right? I always look at 1890s properties and I'm like, if I'm hesitant to buy it now, I can't imagine in like 30 years someone actually
Sure.
looking at that property and be like, yeah, I'll pay market price for that.
Yeah. What are some systems or processes that have saved you from major headaches since you self-manage all your properties?
So when I started out, I was using apartments.com, and it's worked till
Mhm.
now, I'd say for the most part, but it's helped me a lot with just accounting and keeping just accountability of what's being paid as far as rent and maintenance requests. I realized quickly I was kind of becoming like that typical landlord that would just write everything on postcards and notepads and scrambling to figure out who sent me their checks at the first of the month.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
So really learning early on, like it's totally worth having a system where tenants can pay and introducing that to them early on. I realized that it's so hard once a tenant lives in a property to convince them to sign up for a platform or software that they're not used to, as opposed to day one being like, this is how you pay your rent, sign up, make sure you're on it by the first, and this is how we're just gonna roll. So it's just setting up those expectations day one was helpful.
Mhm. What are you doing today that your past self wouldn't have agreed with?
My past self would not agree with. I don't know necessarily. That's a very good question. I guess if I had to probably say something, it's probably knowing that I'm limiting my scale, right? Or how many doors I could get by keeping all the equity. I think there was a point where I did, come to the conclusion if I really want to scale up, I was gonna have to have investors and looking at different strategies. And now I've pivoted a little bit of I don't care how many doors I have, I'd rather just own all of it. So I think it's just me pivoting and realizing what makes real estate my freedom and what that means. It just looks differently, right? I know I could have a syndication and do all these other things, but it's like actually I'd rather just have it all myself, regardless of how that sounds or whether it's selfish. But I'd rather just own everything myself, to be honest.
Mm. Why is that?
I feel like having other investors just creates another job for you. And I really would like to avoid that. I would really like to avoid having to give anybody a response or reasoning behind why I'm making decisions around my portfolio.
Mm.
And I just think that's probably what I want my freedom to look like.
What's the difference between, because like obviously everything's a relationship, right? So what's the real difference between a syndicate versus using, hard money? If everybody's still an LP, they're a silent partner. They understand the drill. What's the real difference, do you think, between still using other people's money versus it becoming a syndicate?
I think at least from my understanding with syndications, they're just longer terms, right? It might be 2 to 5 years, as opposed to hard money, it's a 6 to 9 months thing that you're doing to obviously restabilize the property. So it's just
Right.
shorter term, and it's you're not giving them updates. You can have more control over the deal, and even after that, once it's stabilized, I can control the tenants. I can control what the renovations are being done to the property. And I can just be okay with what my decisions are, right? I might not want to do a huge capex on a property, even if it needs it, right? It might not be the time. It might be the time to actually invest in another property that I think is better positioned for that injection. And so I think just having that autonomy to make those decisions, as opposed to having to still go back to somebody and say, your money is in this, I owe you a response.
Mm, sure. What's your approach to building long-term relationships in the business?
It's absolutely key, especially locally. Like if you're
Yeah.
buying in a market and you want to stick to that market, you have to have those relationships, especially with banks. Because I've learned very quickly, especially the community banks, the commercial banks that are small, not the Bank of Americas or the Chases, but the smaller ones,
Right.
they want to see your face. I had a lender come to my closing. I've never seen a lender show up to a closing, but he wanted to meet me in person because he was a local guy. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was just very different, right? But I've learned to appreciate that and really try to hone in on checking in with my lenders and just, even if it's just a hello, nurturing that relationship because when I do need money and I do have the next deal, they'll actually remember who I am.
Have you ever had to fire a partner?
I haven't had a partner.
Well, what I mean is even just like who you deal with, like from a service provider standpoint, but not so much like an actual like 50-50 partner that's like running the business with you, right? But like, have you, like how I usually frame that question as a client or a partner? Like, for instance, with my marketing company, like I've had clients and I've had to fire those clients, right? Because like not all money is good money. So have you ran into a situation like that yet with somebody that like actually supports your business?
I would say the only person really was like my agent that I initially used. After a few months, we did a few deals together, and it was kind of like, you know what, I'm better off going off market, and I can find better deals than the ones you're bringing me. And it wasn't anything obviously personal, but I think once I started seeing deals, I realized that what he was sending to me weren't all that great.
Uh, are you still completely solo op right now, or do you have anybody that you employ, or do you outsource anything? What is like is the business all start and stop with you?
So I have my dad. He works on the maintenance side. He kind of just does the rehab management, you could say. So we have a crew that does most of our rehabs, and then he manages them. But outside of that, still, it's a pretty solo operation.
Okay. So with military background, you obviously had to have spent some time around some pretty decent leaders. Who's the best leader that you've spent time around, and what did you learn from them that you're going to implement as you continue to grow your business?
I would say I had a chief officer while I was deployed in Kuwait in 2018, and that was by far the best leader I ever saw in the military. Um, and I would just say he held me accountable, but he was extremely personable. And I learned, especially in the military, oftentimes you're going to be held accountable at all phases, right? But that personable side of a person, you're not going to see that, right? Because they tell you to be rigid, to be rough. So seeing someone just come to my level and just be level headed with me and try to understand where I was at while also just still saying, this is what we need to do, and I'm going to hold you accountable. I know you can do this. Really, had just taught me that as a leader, you can set standards but still be somebody that other people actually want to be around. If people don't want to be around you, maybe they may work for you, but they're not going to work a very long time for you. And I think that's why for me, everybody talks about hiring VAs and, you know, just hiring somebody as soon as you can and just don't worry about it, right? But I don't want to hire somebody and then rehire them in 3, 4 months because they quit, right? They don't care about me. I'm not personable with them. I'm just giving them tasks, right? Especially admin tasks that they probably have no interest in doing, right? So I think just realizing in order to really be a good leader, actually have like a good team, you should have connections with those people. And they should want to hang out with you, right? Actually enjoy being around you because that's how you get them to stick around longer. Like I would have gone to bat with my chief because I actually enjoyed hanging out with him. Even if I had to do the work, it was like I'm being seen, I'm being appreciated, I'm being valued, and that just goes such a long way when you have somebody senior to you acting like that because you don't see it often at all.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with that. How do you stay educated with everything changing so fast?
That's a very good question. I would say I read the news, but I focus mostly on my market. So I'm always constantly looking up like Charlotte or the specific markets that I'm in are on Charlotte and always looking at development. For me, there's obviously a ton of cities around my market and I try to stay within like 100-mile radius, but I'm just always looking to see what kind of development is going around and what's coming to the cities and where are the towns that are rural that nobody else is looking at, but they might have a big development coming about. So I just try to stay up to date with those kinds of things.
Mm, yeah. What part of the industry do you think is overdue for a disruption?
Oh, property management, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be disrupted, but it's definitely
Why is
overdue.
that?
Why is that?
Um, there's just a lot of bad property managers, right? And you'd be so surprised that there's actually a lot of bad landlords, right? We're still very old school, and that's why I was being very candid when I said there was a point where I had everything on my notepads. Although I would consider myself young, I know about AI, there's all these technologies. For the most part, people kind of half-ass it, to be honest.
Mm,
And so I think that there's a lot of improvements that can be seen in the space. And I think I'm more so inclined now to really get a software going, start implementing like AI, right? Making it a better tenant experience. Because then I could just beat my competition, even if we have the same product, right? Even if it's a C-class product at the end of the day, if I've got a better experience for my tenants, they'll continue to renew their leases. So I think that's just where it's at for where I'm at in my lane, right?
right. Yeah. Because ultimately, at the same time, like the longer you can have a good tenant stay in a property, the more money and less headaches you have.
100%. And tenants will want to renew if they have a good experience, right? If they can never get a hold of you or if you don't fix things, within a reasonable amount of time, you'd be surprised. They're keeping that in the back of their mind and you have no idea it's coming, but they're going to say, I do not want to renew my lease.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. If you had to go back to the beginning and get started all over again, but you could take all the knowledge that you've gained over the last few years, albeit not decades, but still a lot in the time frame that you have achieved, what would you do different and what would you do the same if you had to start over back then?
Hmm. I would have still probably bought the houses that I bought. They weren't home run deals by any means, but they gave me a sense of confidence and then they gave me credibility to lenders, which was what I needed to actually scale up. So they weren't great deals, they were okay deals that gave me something at the end of the month. But I'd probably still do that. And then I would say something differently that I would do would probably have been to start networking more. So I didn't network at the beginning until I actually moved to Charlotte, which was a limitation in and of itself. But I could have probably found a community online or at some point and started connecting with people that were in the industry that were already doing what I knew I wanted to do early on instead of waiting a year into it to kind of get around people.
Yeah, you got love it. Well, Cindy, where can these folks find you for more, learn about what you're working on, and connect with you?
For sure. I'm on Instagram, Cindy West underscore, post videos there, try to kind of take people along for the journey. So you can find me there.
There you go, folks. Go drop her some love from the Real Estate Pros and Investor Fuel. Thanks for being here, Cindy, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.